Okay, in this video, I'm going to just do a couple quadratic formula examples so you can clearly see step by step what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to write down the quadratic formula on the top. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. That's the quadratic formula. You guys should have that down by now. Okay, so I'm going to do number one and one more. For number one, that's not in the correct form. I always need 0 on the right side. So you should always be getting 0 on the right side first before you even start attempting to use the quadratic formula, okay? All right, so I'm going to blow this up a little bit. I'm going to add 15 to both sides. Okay, adding 15 to both sides, I get 8x squared minus 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. Okay, if you notice, that's probably a little bit hard to factor. How would I use the quadratic formula here? I'm going to first identify the a, b, and c. A is always the number in front of the x squared term, so a is 8. What's b? B is the number in front of the x, so b is negative 2. What's c? C here is negative 3. Plugging everything into the quadratic formula, I'm going to get the negative of negative 2 plus or minus the square root b squared. So that's going to be negative 2 squared minus 4 times a times c. Okay, all divided by 2a. Okay. So now the goal is I need to simplify that long expression. Two negatives together make a plus. So I'm going to get 2 plus or minus the square root of 4. Now make sure you do the multiplication first. Negative 4 times 8, that's 32, and 32 times 3, right? 32 times 3 is 96. And that's all divided by 2 times a. 8 times 2 is 16. Now I'm kind of glad here I have a square root of 100 on the inside. That's a nice perfect square. So 2 plus or minus the square root of 100 divided by 16. Square root of 100 is simply 10. 2 plus or minus 10 over 16. So now what? Now we have two solutions. One solution would be 2 plus 10 over 16. The other solution would be 2 minus 10 over 16. You want to simplify those a little bit. So then 2 plus 10 would be 12 over 16. And my other one would be 2 minus 10 over 16, or negative 8 over 16. Okay, so those are my two solutions. If you wanted to, you could simplify those. Let's say for the first one, I could, if I wanted to divide the top and bottom by 4. And I would get 3 over 4. If I wanted to divide the top and bottom by 4 on the second solution and get an equivalent fraction, I could. And that would be negative 2 over 4. Or actually, that simplifies to minus a half. So my two solutions here would be 3/4 and minus 1/2. Okay, so let me just reiterate what I just did. I set the right side equal to 0. I identified my a, b, and c. Plugged and chugged everything into the quadratic formula, simplified it. I made sure that I did the multiplication first, and then I get fractions. And if you wanted to, you can simplify the fractions. Okay, I'm going to erase everything, and I'm going to do number 2. So erase, erase, erase. Okay. Okay, so number 2. Number 2, it has the same issue as number 1, right? So I still need to somehow fix the equation. So to fix the equation on number 2, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. I'm going to get 4x squared minus 8x minus 3 is equal to 0. So that's good because now I'm in standard form. I have a quadratic equation on the left side that's in standard form, and I have 0 on the right. That's exactly what I need in order to use the quadratic formula. Next step, I need to identify the a, b, and c. A is 4, b is -8, c is -3. Now I'm going to plug everything in, okay? So I'm going to write down the quadratic formula. Well, actually, I have it on the top. I'm going to plug and chug everything in. So I'm going to have the negative of -8 plus or minus the square root, okay, of -8 squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a, and a is 4. Okay, so what do? Two negatives together right here make a plus. So I'm going to have now 8 plus or minus square root of 64, because -8 squared is 64. Right here inside, you got to do the multiplication first. 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 times 3, okay, 6 times 3 is 18. That's going to be a 48, positive 48. Okay, and that's all divided by 8. Okay, I need to simplify the inside of that square root. What's 64 plus 48, right? Looks like it's 112. Okay, and then at this point, we just have two solutions. I can't do the square root of 112. That doesn't simplify. So then what are my two answers? My two answers would be 8 plus the square root of 112 over 8. And then my second answer would be 8 minus the square root of 112 over 8. Okay, so it's okay to leave answers in square roots. All right, I hope this video helped. This is just supposed to be a good introductory video on how to do and use the quadratic formula. Again, we have to get it in the correct form first by getting 0 on the right side. Then we identify the a, b, and c. And then we just plug in our values of a, b, and c into this formula and simplify the answers. Okay, I hope this video helped. I'll see you guys in the next video.